Hey there, delectable dumplings. Thank you so much for joining me again on my humble little channel. Today, I want to talk to all the witches amongst you, but also anyone who doesn't necessarily claim the word witch for themselves, but has a path that looks witchy in nature, okay? So anyone kind of walking any kind of serious spiritual path. I want to talk to you about respect. Okay, give a little respect to me. We're gonna go full erasure mode today. Okay, we all deserve respect. We all can expect respect when it comes to the importance of our spiritual practice, the time that we want to spend doing it, and essentially that it is a part of us, that we identify with it, that it gives us joy, that it's important to us, that we want to prioritize it in our lives. In the last video I made for this channel, I spoke a lot about coming out of the broom closet. I made my first dedicated video to help people with basically coming out, telling people that they are a witch and how to do that and how to deal with the issues that may come from that. In this video, it's kind of like a partner to the last one. So in this video, I want to talk about what happens when you tell somebody that you're a witch, or indeed a spiritual type, right, of some description, and you are demeaned or insulted or mocked. There's a number of different ways that people can fall short of ensuring that they are respectful towards us when we reveal to them the truth of our spiritual inclinations. And in this video, I just want to talk about a few various different things that can happen, my opinions on that stuff. This is, again, another collection of conversations that you could say that I end up having with clients on and off. And through the years, I've encountered a lot of different experiences people have had, which have been less than impressive when it comes to respecting one's spiritual practice. So yeah, today I just want to get really real about that. I do not want it to put anybody off actually revealing themselves to be a witch. If you have been planning and you've been on track for coming out of the broom closet to someone in your life, far be it from me to, make you feel like you want to have second thoughts on that. Obviously, every individual situation is so different and so nuanced, and I cannot know the gravity and the details of your situation. I'm not saying that these things may happen to you, but I guess I'm speaking to people for whom it is happening. And I really want to let you guys know that you're not alone. There is a lot of this kind of stuff that goes on. And I think it would be good for us to open up a dialogue as witches about what we can do when we see this sort of behavior coming up, when we're dealing with it regularly, etc. So let's get into it. I've got quite a few different things I want to tackle. I will leave the timestamps down below. They are your friends. Please use them accordingly. In my broom closet video, darlings, one thing that I mentioned was that when you tell someone that you are a witch, they may need some time to adjust to that information. And actually, that's something that can create, in the end, a better outcome for the witch themselves and also the person that they are telling, who feels like they need that time. Because when you go away for a period of adjustment, a period of reflection, when you take the information in and you really think and feel into it, you can come back a lot more evenly minded than you were when you first found out a piece of information about someone that has shocked you, right? So adjustment periods aren't necessarily bad. I don't think we can expect everybody in our lives to immediately accept new information about us as it's given, with no worries, with no preconceived notions or biases. I think sometimes a period of adjustment is reasonable. And maybe when you tell somebody that you're a witch, in certain circumstances, you might expect actually that they're going to need a period of adjustment. So you might even have already kind of predicted that that might be what will happen. A period of adjustment, though, is exactly that. It's time for the person to get used to the information that you have given them, and it's time for them to maybe do some research, potentially ask some more questions if they want to, that kind of thing, and to really put themselves at ease in some way. It is not supposed to be an ongoing thing which never really reaches a conclusion, okay? Somebody is not entitled to very vocally be unadjusted to your witchhood. over and over again through months or even years, okay? So when we allow somebody a period of getting used to our witchhood and really coming to accept it, that's what that period is supposed to be. It's not supposed to drag on. It's not supposed to be something that goes on indefinitely. Nobody is entitled to repeatedly over weeks, months, or years make disparaging comments about your witchhood, joke about it or mock it openly, tell you that they're uncomfortable when you mention it in a conversation. That has to be something that is meted out inside that person. That person has to do what they need to do to reach the other side of whatever emotions they're experiencing about your witchhood. If they want to remain in your life and if they want the relationship to be nutritious and delicious, they're going to have to do what they're going to do. They cannot remain in your life but be shaming you or mocking you or making you feel consistently uncomfortable about your witchhood. So I think if someone's having a difficult time accepting it and they're making it known that they're having a difficult time accepting it, depending on what they're doing and how long it's been, I think you've got the right to pull them up on that and say, hey, look, I know it's been difficult. I know it's not something that you expected or it's not something that you understand, but you don't have the right to make that my problem. And frankly, when you say things like that or when you do things like that, you're making it my problem, whether you know it or not, and this is me telling you, I'm giving you a heads up that actually you are now making me feel uncomfortable through the way that you are responding to this news. I think sometimes it's worthwhile just saying to somebody like, look, I'm a witch. Pretty sure it's not a phase. This is something about me that is going to be a permanent fixture. So is it something you can actually adjust to or not? Because really you're dragging your feet. You're dragging your feet when it comes to this, and we need to hurry it up, Let's talk about joking and banter, okay? Banter is kind of like a form of joking where you rib each other, you take the piss out of each other. It's a very, very popular way of communicating with your close loved ones in England. In the UK, banter is big, okay? Banter is on the conversational menu. I have no problem with banter. I have no problem with jokes relating to a part of a person. But here's the thing, okay? It's only funny if you both find it funny. It's only funny if it's funny for both of you. So if you find that someone is repeatedly joking about your witchcraft, whether they're bringing it up in a conversation and joking about it, or whether they are jokingly replying to something that you have said about it that was in no way intended to be funny, then that is something that you have the right to request changes around, For me, banter only really works when it's with a close loved one of mine who knows me well enough to know where the line is. They know where the joking line is, okay? I'm happy to joke about pretty much anything to do with myself. I'm actually quite self-deprecating as a person. I know some people say that that's not self-loving and that you shouldn't do it, but it's a natural part of my humour and I don't think it's unself-loving. I can see the ways in which I can sometimes be ridiculous, and it is comedic. I am quite a comedic person in my nature, not only because I like joking, but because I can be a joke. Look, I'm just a very theatrical, very full-on, very zesty person with a lot of quirks. It's funny because I'm short, I'm like 5'0" and I'm really like a small yapper type dog. I'm just very out there for someone so small, and it just gets kind of funny. Like there's lots of things about me that can be a bit funny, and me and my friends, we joke about me and we joke about them and we joke about things that have happened and silly, embarrassing things we did, etc. Right? So I don't mind a bit of banter, it's fine. But I always claim the right to say when I don't like when something is being bantered about. And I've done that in the past with various things. I've said, hey, like less of that, it still hurts, or I just don't find it funny. I don't want to get into it like that. I don't want to be jokey about it. And I would definitely do that when it comes to witchcraft as well. Now, a form of banter that you might experience with a close friend would be something like if you were to say, oh, I really think that's going to happen. I really think that is going to be what is going to take place. And your friend goes, oh, yeah, have you checked your crystal ball, have you? You had a little look at the stars or whatever, right? That's a piece of banter. Now, that is only banter when it's happening with a friend whom you know respects your craft. They respect your witchhood. So it becomes banter because you know that there is a baseline foundational level of love and trust with that person, and therefore they are able to bant with you about that thing. It is not funny, and it does not go over as banter when that person has shown you absolutely zero level of foundational respect for you as a witch. and they start to try to banter you about it. That's not going to work, is it? It's not funny, because you don't really know what their intentions are, and they haven't really shown you that their intentions are good. So if someone has been joking about your witchcraft and you've been feeling like, oh, why am I sore about that? Like, why is that a problem for me? Why can't I just laugh about it? That's probably why. It's because they haven't shown you that they actually do respect your craft. They respect what you do and who you are in that way. And so the joke about it, the little ribbing about it, can be funny, and it can be well meant. If you don't know that something is well meant, that's where the issue is going to be. And I think it's okay to explain to someone, like, you know, I don't know whether or not that's well meaning, because so far you haven't really reflected to me that you do respect me as a witch. So I don't feel like it's something we can joke about, because I don't think you've really shown me where you stand on this. Come on, let's just be completely real as well, right? There are lots of instances in this life relating to witchhood or relating to just about anything else where someone will brush something off and say, I was just joking. Oh, it was just a joke. You know, you're so sensitive. It was just a joke. And we know that those things are actually intentionally meant to be demeaning or indeed abusive, right? It can be definitely a way for someone to fly under the radar with critiques of you, or with malice towards you, by putting it into a joking context. And you might know that's happening. And if you know that's happening, it's okay for you to say something about it or to distance yourself from that person. When it comes to insults or demeaning language, you know, just there's not even a punchline, all right? It's just demeaning language. It's insulting. It's cruel. It's undermining of your craft. When someone does something like that, I always wonder if they would do it to someone who was operating under the umbrella of a major religion, right? So if someone is going to say something like, Sabbats, like, what even is that? It's so stupid. Would they say that to a Jew that was observing Shabbat dinner? Would they say that to a Catholic that was going to Mass on Sunday? Now, if they would, then first of all, try not to be their friend. But second of all, try not to have that much to do with them if they're going to do that to people of any religion. But second of all, if they wouldn't do that, why are they doing that to you? It is because they do not recognize that your faith is integral to the plot of your life. Okay, they have not understood that it is just as important, it's just as potent, it's just as moving to be a witch as it is to be anything else in terms of religious or spiritual identification or allegiance. It is your faith. It is really important to you. Maybe that is an opportunity for you to explain that, for you to get it across to that person that, like, hey, this isn't a game, you know. And you might even want to say, like, I'm really intrigued, I'm intrigued. Would you say that to a Muslim? Would you say that to a Jew or a Christian? Like, seriously, would you be disparaging about it with somebody of one of those faiths like you just have done with me? Because I want you to know that the meaning that this gives to my life, the importance that I place upon it, is no different. It's no different. And witchcraft has a very rich lineage and history and bunch of traditions. And it's a whole thing over here, you know? And it's not something that I just pick up and put on like a cheap accessory. It's my faith, and I need you to respect it thusly. And if you're talking to someone in that moment who would never think of being disparaging towards someone for their religious adherence, then hopefully you will have gotten through to them. They will make that connection. If not, that's on them. But I think sometimes that question is worth asking. One thing that you may find happening when you tell someone you're a witch is that they may ask you to stop doing certain things or to deprioritize certain things. So, for example, a person in your life might ask you to not recognize a Sabbat or an Esbert, some kind of major thing that you do in your craft. They might ask you not to do that because they want to do something else with you on that night, or they want you to prioritize something else that they deem to be more important. So that can happen. You might come across situations where someone is asking you to please not put out witchy books on the bookshelves or not have an altar set up, that kind of thing. You might have situations where somebody asks you not to talk about it, not to refer to it. Really, I think every situation is so different when it comes to this. When we get into conversations with people about certain things that we know they find to be uncomfortable or confusing or whatever, it could be because we want them to further understand it. And I think a conversation like that should probably be set up that way. You know, if I was going to talk to someone that I knew was uncomfortable about the fact that I was a witch, it wouldn't be just casually bringing it up with them, because I'm not trying to make them uncomfortable by casually bringing it up out of nowhere. But what I probably would do is to have a very conscious conversation with them, which would begin by me saying, hey, I think I want to talk to you more about my witchcraft because I feel like you're uncomfortable with it. And I'm not saying we need to talk about it every day. I'm not saying I want you to know everything I do at my altar, but I think you're kind of taking a backward step from that aspect of my identity. And I think it's fucking with our closeness as two people who want to be close. So maybe we should talk about it. Maybe we should get it out there. You know, and I did say in my last video about coming out of the broom closet, darlings, that you can actually give someone the opportunity to ask you questions or to request further details from you that maybe can clear up some of their concerns or get rid of some of their biases that they have. You know, so if you feel comfortable to do that and you want to do that for a person, that can be a really good way through, is to have that conversation. I think if somebody was to say to me, can you not mention that? Can you not talk about that thing to do with witchcraft? Like, can we not bring that up right now or whatever? I think that it's okay for everyone to have conversational boundaries, but I would also want to understand that that person does accept at a fundamental level that I am a witch. Like I said, I don't want to bring up things with people that they would find uncomfortable, right? I've had several friends, for example, through my life journey who don't like talking about sex and sexual things. It's not necessarily been because they're asexual or aromantic. Sometimes I've had friends who very much are in sexual relationships, but it's uncomfortable for them to talk about it. I am very open about sex and I talk about it often with friends who do talk about it with me, but I intentionally do not bring it up around my friends who find it uncomfortable. Why? Because I don't enjoy making people feel uncomfortable. There's plenty of other things to discuss. There's plenty of other things to talk about. But do I want them to respect that I am a sexually open person? Yes, I do. If I felt that they didn't respect that, that would be a problem. If I felt they were judging me for that, if I felt they were moralizing by asking me not to talk about it, that would be a problem. But if they simply just don't enjoy that kind of conversation, I mean, God damn it, that's fine. That's fine, you know. I have some friends that I don't discuss politics with. They find it uncomfortable or they find it boring or it's not their bag, you know. That's fine. Really, honestly, it's fine. I'm friends with different kinds of people. It's okay. So, you know, I certainly am not going to be friends with anyone who fundamentally is opposed to the politics that I feel are about human rights, etc. Like, that's not my bag. I'm not going to have a friend like that anywhere near close enough to me to even get into a political discussion, because that's a rule for me. That's a boundary for me. But, you know, we can have differences of opinion and we can also decide that we are not going to talk about certain things. There's certain things I don't discuss with my mother. You know what I mean? I'm trying to give you these examples as if to say it's okay if a connection is better served by not discussing something. But I do need to know that whatever we're not discussing has not been taken off the table because of disrespect towards me. If it's just because it makes the other person feel uncomfortable, that's fine. And I think with the witchcraft situation, it's the same thing. If someone's asking me not to discuss it, or they're saying, I don't know, I don't want to get into it, like it's just not my thing or whatever, that would be one thing. But if I felt that they also were holding judgment against me, that would be another thing. I do think it's okay not to have certain discussions, but we need to understand what is the basis for why. What is the basis for why that is? You know, and I'd love to know, particularly down below, if you agree or disagree with me on this, because I do think we're going to have some differing opinions and I would like to read them all. Thank you. So please leave them below. When it comes to not doing certain things, not having your altar out, not having your books out, I'm trying to think of other things. Maybe you bless food or you pray over food and someone's asked you not to do that when they're making them food, that kind of thing. You know, I think fundamentally that can sometimes be a clash of different spiritual beliefs. And I think both people's spiritual beliefs can be respected without there being too much of an issue. But it depends on the individual situation, doesn't it? And again, is there that baseline level of respect? Is there that foundational sense that you know that they do at least accept about you that you are a witch? When it comes to being asked to deprioritize things, again, I kind of take that back to the question of like, well, would you ask someone of some religious faith to do that? Would you ask your friend who is seriously religious? Would you ask your friend who is deeply connected to their faith to forego something for you, to not do something for you? If you wouldn't ask them that, don't ask me that. That's my rule of thumb. And again, get at me in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this as a way to kind of like judge how you would respond. There are a couple of things that are coming up for me about, you know, being asked to not speak about witchcraft, which I think could be useful to mention. First of all, I think certain things can be reasonable. For example, if someone says to you, darling, I'd really appreciate if we didn't mention anything to do with the witchery doodah while my parents are here. They just wouldn't take to it. And, you know, do they really need to know that? You might actually feel like, no, I don't think my partner's parents do need to know, actually. And I think if it's going to cause more trouble than it's worth, why bring it up, you know? Certainly that can be a thing. You know, that sort of thing, I suppose, could be reasonable under certain circumstances. Maybe not for you. Maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, no, Kellyanne, I will say what I want when I want about my craft. And that's fine. But I think lots of people get into those kinds of agreements, you know, that sometimes it's just like not worth the trouble and we should just avoid that subject. In much the same way as a partner might say to you, darling, let's not do politics this weekend while my parents are around. I just really don't want the hassle. I think that also would be reasonable. But I also wanted to say as well that if somebody wants you to stop speaking about something, you're well within your rights to ask them to stop speaking about something in return. Fair's fair, okay? Let's play fair here, all right? So say, for example, someone says to you, I really don't want you to talk about your witchcraft. I accept that you're a witch. It's fine, whatever, I get it. But like, I don't know what to say when you bring up this stuff. And like, it makes me uncomfortable because of my faith, right? Let's say they're Christian and it makes them feel uncomfortable because of their faith. And they feel that it contradicts their faith. That's fine. But in return, you get to also say, well, I don't want you to bring up Christianity either. Let's leave all of our faith and our spiritual belief systems at the door. Because that's equal, that's fair, that's balanced. It's not okay for a Christian to say to you, let's not do the witchcraft conversation, don't bring it up, you know, or don't wear a pentacle in my presence or whatever, but they're wearing a crucifix. No. We're not going to be doing that. I think a lot of the conversations that we can have with ourselves as witches are really about equality and how much equality we feel entitled to access as practitioners. And I think there can be a lot of inequality where we silence ourselves and sort of really muffle our voices and make ourselves small and shrink ourselves in conversations to accommodate others while they, you know, just quote Bible verses at will. And is that fair? Is that happening to anyone right now? Let us know in the comments. I would like to know. Earlier in the video, I mentioned a little bit about, you know, somebody asking you not to do something witchy that's on your agenda or in your calendar, you know, because they want you to do something else instead, something that they feel is more important. I think that this links into something even bigger, which is kind of like a general expectation that you will consistently deprioritize your witchhood in favor of other things in life, you know, this expectation that it's okay that you should be deprioritizing all the time, that you should be spending less time than you want to in the service of your craft, that you should not be spending money on anything to do with your craft, you know, this sense that like you should study something or spend your free time doing something that is not adjacent to your witchhood because somebody else doesn't think that it should be a priority for you because it wouldn't be a priority for them. You know, that's really what it comes down to. That's the honest truth of what happens there is somebody gets irritated that you want to place your witchcraft higher up on your priority list for a certain occasion or even in general, and they don't understand that. And I think it can be put to a person in that way. You know, I think we can really say to somebody, I feel and I sense that you don't understand why this should be important. But it's okay if you don't understand it. You just have to respect the fact that it's important for me. I will never need you to understand why I need to spend the whole weekend recognizing Samhain. I will never expect you. You don't have to understand it. You need to accept it. That's your role. That's what you need to do. You know, it's not a case of like, if you don't understand why something's important, then it's not important. That's really getting into bigotry. And I think sometimes a person might need to just have that shown to them. I think sometimes a person won't see that that's what they're doing until you approach them with it and you address it with them and you say, you know, and it could be said in a very offhand way. They could just be like, oh, come on, we've got so much to do this weekend. You really need to, you know, whatever you're doing, your witchy stuff. And you can turn to them and be like, it's my faith, babe. You know, it's actually really important to me. I know it's not important to you, but it's important to me. Or it could be a real sit down conversation where you actually go for the whole, you go all in, and you sit them down and you say, look, you consistently expect me to deprioritize something that is life-saving and potent and meaningful and is a part of me. How would you feel if I did that to you? With one of your deepest passions, with one of your longest held areas of interest? How would you feel if I said, why do you have to spend the time on that? Do you need to spend the money on that? Do you really, whatever it might be? How would you feel? And I'm not saying this as a way to, allow you to justify spending shitloads of your budget on tarot decks when you and your family are supposed to be, agreeing to spend money elsewhere. I'm not saying that, but I think, a little bit of money, like most people with any kind of interest, deep interest in a spiritual path, are spending some money on some books about it or some tools related to it or whatever. And it will be no different for witches, right? So yeah, I'm definitely not saying that you can use it as an excuse to break the bank. But I think wanting to apply budget to your witchhood, especially if it's your money, like it's your money, it's not even shared money, then I think that's something that should be honoured. And I think the notion that you wouldn't spend money or time or energy or focus or brain power on your witchhood because it's not important to someone else is really quite wrong. So I would definitely urge you to witness when that is showing up and recognize that you have the right to say something about that. You have the right to address any imbalance that's happening there. I don't think that any video of this nature would be complete whatsoever, my loves, without discussing the dreaded conversion attempts, okay? The conversion attempts. I have spoken about this with many, many clients over time. It's a serious problem. It's a problem. I think when somebody starts to try to bring you into the flock, of course, there are myriad different reasons why they're doing that. Okay, I get that they are concerned for your immortal soul. I get that they want to see you come to the light and do the right thing and be safe and be happy. And they think that that is what you require to get you there. I understand that there are many well-meaning reasons why somebody might try to convert you, either once or on a consistent basis. However, that does not make it right. Okay, a lot of things have been done well-meaningly and not been right. And so we do need to make sure that we are not continuing on with a connection that is in a state where you're having a conversion attempt laid on you every single time you see someone or every single time you speak to them. A conversion attempt can look like a few different things. It can be an offhand comment that's just like, I think you'd get a lot more out of church, or I don't see how what you're doing can be any better than what I do with my faith or whatever. Or maybe if you're talking about a problem, somebody might say, well, maybe you should pray to God, or maybe you should crack that dusty Bible open and whatever. Those can be sort of like your lower level but still very demeaning conversion attempts. And then I've even spoken to people who have had interventions, guys, and exorcisms, and I'm sure some of you watching this video now will not be a stranger to that kind of thing, which I personally find terrifying and really unnecessary. But it's a thing that happens. Sometimes you have several family members together all sitting around the table trying to convince you to come to Christ or to come back to Christ. I'm mentioning Christianity specifically because it seems to be actually more prevalent. I've worked with witches from other backgrounds, other religious backgrounds, and it doesn't seem to be as much of a thing. The demeaning, yes. The mocking, yes. The requests for you to deprioritize or whatever, yes. But it doesn't seem to be as big of a thing. The desire to get you back into the faith or the conversations around that. But I'm sure it happens. I know it goes on. I get that it goes on. I really do. But I think for a lot of people watching this video as well, it's going to be far more likely that if they've experienced a conversion attempt, it's going to be at the hands of very seriously Christian family members or partners. When you experience a conversion attempt, you are absolutely within your rights to be unresponsive during that attempt. Grey rock that person, just like unresponsive, avoid eye contact. You don't have to say anything in response. You can just go, You have the right to reserve as much of your energy as possible during that conversion attempt, and not to get into it, and not to argue, and not to feel like you're hitting a conversational brick wall. You have the right to protect your life force during a conversion attempt, especially if it's something that's triggering for you, which I know for some people it can be. So there's definitely that to consider. I think changing the subject, I think seeming physically and mentally unmoved by the attempt in order to prevent further attempts can definitely be a good thing. I think when we change the subject, or when we seem completely just like unmoved, unfazed, maybe making light of it, or indeed, like I said, being unresponsive, grey rocking through the situation, I think that can have a much better response in terms of not inviting another attempt than arguing. When a witch starts arguing back, when a witch starts trying to pull together a very strong case for why they should remain a witch, and why they're going to remain a witch, and why the conversion attempt won't mean anything to them and they should stop it, I think when a witch shows that kind of emotion, it can actually be a little bit like a red rag to a bull, unfortunately. And it can make the person who's trying to convert you even more intent on doing so, because they feel that they are getting through to you. They feel that fighting back that you're doing is actually the opening of a door through which they can shove Christ. So, sorry, I know some witches work with Christ, and I respect that shit, I really do. But it's almost seen as like this area of availability if you are too emotionally entrenched. Now, I don't want you to be watching this and shaming yourself if you have had a very strong negative emotional response to a conversion attempt, and you have shouted, or you have cried, or you have tried to make a case for your witchhood. Don't worry, okay? There's all kinds of different responses that can come up for witches when they come across this kind of thing. It's understandable. But what I would definitely recommend is taking more of a path of just seeming unbothered. Just kind of like, I'm not fussed. I'm not going to do that. Next conversation, I feel like it can help people to get more bored with trying to convert you more quickly. But look, at the end of the day, if the conversion attempts keep coming, it's only a matter of time before they actually end up pushing you away, because who the fuck wants to deal with that every 5 minutes? Finally, my loves, I just wanted to have a quick word on online hate and criticism and trolling and all that kind of thing. You have something very, very useful when it comes to that you do not have in your real life interactions with loved ones, and that is that you can block, delete, exhale, forgive, and move on. You don't have to put up with any shit, You do not have to put up with any shit. I remember a long time ago when I was watching a Marie Forleo video, she said something like, she was talking about how she deals with haters and trolls and like online crap. And she said, I don't let someone walk into my house and take a crap on the floor. And why would I do that in my online space? And I've always adopted that mentality, because that was very early on in my days of expressing myself online. And I just thought, you know what? She's right. Like, why the fuck would I allow somebody to keep coming in and dirtying up the carpet in my home? My online platforms are an expression of myself and an extension of myself. I share really important and potent and sometimes highly sensitive things on this channel and on my social media accounts. Why would I allow somebody to keep coming in, making a fuss, making a scene, drawing attention to themselves, being cruel to me or to other people? I wouldn't let them get away with it. People have asked me before, like, is it okay if I actually, interact with someone? If someone's being hateful towards me, can I react very strongly in response? Can I take them down a peg or two? Should I argue with them? Because sometimes I feel like I want to. And you know what? I think the human condition is so changeable, so malleable, so dependent upon mood and circumstance that you really can't tell how you're going to react. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all kind of rule. Certainly sometimes in my comment sections, I get people saying things to me about my path and stuff like that. And I have come back at them. And I have, thrown a bit of sass their way, the old Maddox sass. And sometimes I have people coming in underneath in the comments being like, don't give them the time of day. Don't give them what they want. Just ignore them. Just ignore haters. Just ignore trolls. Well, no, because I had the feeling in that moment that I wanted to fucking say something. I felt moved to say something. So that's what the fuck I'm going to do. Sometimes we feel very moved to say something back. And we have that right. They open the fucking door. So we have the right to stroll through it. Is it always the best idea? Is it always the best thing for your blood pressure? No, probably not. But I think it's dependent upon the circumstance and the person and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I feel like fucking saying something, especially if the person, if the thing that the person has said is so fucking asinine that it's like a bloody open goal, and I'm just going to have to march straight through it and put that person in their place. I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to take them publicly down. So yeah, that has to be done. Sometimes people post Bible verses on my social media platforms and YouTube and everything. And, you know, sometimes I just message back and say, these seem like epic black metal lyrics to me, because very often they do. They are extremely fucking metal, these Bible verses that are sent to me. You know, sometimes I say, you know, I'm just a smart ass. I just say, look, you might as well have just told me that the spaghetti monster is now my Lord and Saviour, and in order to worship him, I need to turn around 3 times, touch my toes, and fucking shit a cottage pie out of my arse. Like, literally, that's how little it means to me. It means nothing to me. I'm not biblically literate, really, at all. I was never made to read the Bible growing up, so I don't even, literally, all this blood of the lamb crap, I don't even understand. I don't even understand. So sometimes I say that just to be funny, but oftentimes I'll block and delete. The only time I ever block and delete outright, no matter what the situation and no matter how I'm feeling, is if the person that has left the comment is attacking somebody else in my comment. That I will not stand for, and I'm very protective when it comes to that. When it comes to my audience members, when it comes to people leaving comments that are trying to discuss things, or, you know, trying to tell me that they like my work or anything like that, no one's fucking with them. That will not happen on my watch. And if you see anything like that happening and I'm not responding to it, please let me know, because that person needs to be blocked and deleted. Okay. Darlings, please get at me down below with your thoughts and feelings and experiences. I would love to know what you think of this video, anything that you responded to strongly, anything that you have dealt with in your life, and how did you deal with it? Like, share your secrets, share your stories. Let's come together as witches and spiritually adjacent people, witchcraft adjacent people in the spiritual realm, and let's support each other and let's get the conversation going. Okay, so much love to you, darlings, and blessed be. Mwah.